Welcome to The Founder's Mind. This is your host, Adam Muchler. On this episode, I have Andrew Dana, founder and chief doughboy of Timber Pizza and Call Your Mother, a Jewish deli. He joins me to discuss diving headfirst into the restaurant business and how prioritizing the customer experience over everything has garnered nonstop lines and accolades. Andrew shares how Call Your Mother came to be, the work behind opening it, and why they have a sandwich called the Rihanna Flex. Andrew, thanks for joining me on The Founder's Mind. Appreciate having you on the show.
Pleasure. Thank you.
We are here at Call Your Mother, so you're going to hear all the fun sounds that you get at a bakery when it's closed. It is not empty. It is in operation.
Yeah, we're restocking drinks and new teas.
New teas.
New teas.
You offered me seltzer, but you have new teas?
Yeah, well, I didn't. That was going to be a lot. I was going to have to get a mug and a tea bag.
Oh,
this
hot
was
teas.
yeah.
I go iced tea.
No. This was as simple as opening a can.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah,
I got you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Thank you. Let's get a little.
Ooh. Yeah.
Not a Coca-Cola. Awesome. Well, I think the best way to start this off, and the way that I like to start this for listeners, is kind of in your words. What is this thing that you have created or in the process of building here at Call Your Mother, and a little bit about you?
Yeah. So born and raised in DC, and I have long said that DC is great at fine dining and great at sort of new splashy restaurants. But because it's such a transient city, what it doesn't have is it doesn't have the staples that have been around for generations and generations, like a lot of other cities. In being from here, I sort of missed out on that. So when I thought about sort of getting into the restaurant industry, I thought about what are things that can be around for generations and can become staples and can become sort of things that you go to weekly. So I started Timber Pizza, which is a pizza joint.
Nice.
And I started Call Your Mother, which is, we've called it a Jew-ish deli, so there's a dash in there. So not super traditional, but it's centered around bagels and wood-fired breads.
Nice.
And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, traditional, like, there's lox on the menu. I can see the menu from where I'm sitting. You got some lox. You got za'atar.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can come in here and get a smoked salmon bagel with, like, all the work, so you can at, like, a classic Jewish deli in New York, but you cannot get a Reuben.
Right.
But you can get a cheesesteak made with pastrami and brisket. So it's like a dope sandwich with a little Jewish twist, keeping you on your toes.
I love it. I'm super curious. Where did this come from? I mean, like, I know, like, the staple deli idea. Like, one of the things that my wife and I talk about for DC is, DGS has been here for a while. Now it's gone. Eli's was here, but it was gone a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like, there were some sort of flurries of, Jewish style food and delis, but they kind of evaporated.
Yeah, I mean, so there's sort of two reasons we're here. Is one, I took a look at the landscape and I saw that sort of like a traditional take on a Jewish deli just was not working.
Yeah.
They were closing. And in that same vein, it was sort of like nobody's ever said, like, when they're at a Jewish deli, like, you know what, I wish this was like a little fancier, which is like what a lot of the modern Jewish takes are. It just didn't really make sense. Nobody's ever wanted like their Reuben on like a white tablecloth with like a waiter. Just like it was a weird concept that didn't really work. And then the other 50% is like, honestly, we just didn't really like that kind of stuff that much. Like Danny and I, Chef Danny, who's my business partner at Timber and here, we make stuff that we like, right? So when we first started concepting this menu, there was a Reuben on the menu and there was sort of some more traditional stuff. And we're going through the taste test, and then like one day, I think it was Danny who was like, we don't even like this shit. And it's true. And it's like, if we don't truly believe in it and truly want to do it, let's not do it. So we took a step back and we were like, what do we really like? What's some sort of dope stuff we can do? And we love the idea of the lunch menu being centered around challah sub rolls. So we bake our own challah sub rolls in the wood-fired oven here. And we just thought it was a cool thing to like, let's do sub sandwiches with like a slight Jewish twist. Hence the pastrami and brisket sandwich. So I don't know. I mean, it's not much deeper than that. It was like, let's do something we like, that's cool, with a slight Jewish twist. but not something that's like super traditional.
Yeah.
And I know I'm doing a total rant here. And then lastly, we also looked at the landscape. And when you're doing like traditional stuff, you're competing with people's sort of childhoods and nostalgia.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to compete against that. So we were like, hey, let's play a different game. Now, nobody grew up eating a cheesesteak made with brisket and pastrami, so you're not competing with somebody's childhood. And like, people's favorite thing is to say is like, oh, this isn't like the deli I grew up with, right? And so it's like, yeah, it's definitely not. So I think that was
close
a lot
enough.
of fun. Yeah.
No, I think that's good. One of the things that I'm not in the food space, but it's the sort of the stereotype of the food space. Food business is hard, right? Like starting a food business, by all accounts, is pretty much an impossible thing to do. Not quite.
Yeah.
You created Timber not too long ago.
Yeah, the restaurant opened like 2.5 years ago, and we started the food truck 4.5 years ago.
Yeah. And so less than 5 years total.
Yeah.
And you've already got a second spot, completely different.
Yep.
From idea to first step, like what was that like? You had
Getting from Timber to Call Your Mother?
No, like from like, I'm gonna start a new restaurant, I'm gonna start Call Your Mother, and it was this idea, and then coming into reality. What was that first thing that you did with Call Your Mother besides just think about it?
First thing I did besides think about it is I sat down and wrote a rough business plan. And the point of writing the business plan was not like, oh, this is exactly how I'm going to follow the business. It was almost sort of like flushing out all my ideas.
Yeah.
And candidly, I've never looked at the business plan since we started operating. But it was a good way to sort of like flush out ideas, do some projections, see if it was something that could and would work. So did a couple iterations of that and went through with our business partner, Jeff Zines, who's pretty smart when it comes to that sort of stuff. And so we sort of worked through I guess it was not really writing a business plan. It was more sort of just like concepting, right? It was like coming up with a name and design and sort of thinking through a lot of that stuff. And then we got it to a point where you're like, okay, we think this could work. And then we went out and hunted for real estate. That was step 2.
Call Your Mother's been open for 5 weeks.
Yeah, I don't even know. I think we're coming up on 6 weeks. I don't know.
Weeks, not months.
Yes.
Right?
Month and a half.
I live like a 7-minute walk from here. Every time I come by in the morning, it is always busy.
Yeah.
So I mean, clearly something is working. And it's different than Timber.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's been bonkers. I mean, it's insane. I
Awesome.
don't know how to explain it. It has so far exceeded anything that we thought it was going to be so far.
Can you talk about the inspiration for the titles of your sandwiches?
Yeah.
I'm a big Rihanna Flex fan, mostly because of the name, but also the ingredients.
Yeah, I mean, I can walk through most of them. Rihanna Flex is just like, that's a bagel with the works, and she so famously sings work, 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 work. So that's pretty much all that is.
I love it.
And then a lot of them are just like people who I like, who have like a little dash of Judaism, who I think is kind of funny. So like Amare is Amari Stoudemire, who like found out he was like 10% Jewish, so went on this pilgrimage. Rashida is Rashida Jones, who's my celebrity crush. Rashida, if you happen to listen to this, what's up?
Yeah. Also, let me know, because that would be really cool.
She's half Jewish. The Shine is a famous, well, it's not so famous. He was a rapper in the early 2000s who went to jail and then found Judaism. He was like a gangster rapper and then lived in Jerusalem studying the Torah. So that's sort of it.
I love it.
Yeah.
And pictures of Drake, because...
Yeah, and Drake's half Jewish, just like me. That's pretty much it.
That's good. No,
everybody's like, "Oh, what's the Drake wall mean?" I'm like, it's really doesn't mean anything. We just think it's funny.
I got it.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, there's a Jew. We're in a Jewish, Jewish
One guy
spot.
came in and was like, "Is this Drake's mom's place?" And when I had to tell him no, I've like never seen anybody so disappointed.
I don't even know how that person got there.
Yeah,
That's
me
amazing.
neither.
Does she live in D.C.?
No, she lives in, I think, Toronto.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where he's from. One of the things that I think is that I find fascinating and interesting. What's advice that you've received? And I'm sure you've received a lot of advice, and I'm sure you've listened to some of it, and probably not all of it. But what's a piece of advice that you've received in running these businesses that have been really helpful?
What is some advice that I received? I mean, I think the best advice I ever received is just do it. Mm-hmm. I think that's a Nike quote. That's weird. The best advice I ever received was do it.
Yeah.
Right? I think there's sort of so much pressure to do things like the regular way,
Yeah.
and like so much of the world is like risk adverse.
Yeah.
And so at the very beginning, there was like very, very few people who were like, yeah, go fucking do that. And
Yeah,
go
yeah.
crush it. And there were so many people who are like, are you sure? Like, you're making a good salary. Why do you want to do that? So I don't think there's like any piece of advice that was like a light bulb, like, oh, I have to do that to be successful. It was just sort of like, yeah, go do it. I read this book. I can't even remember what it was called. And this is the advice I give to people, where it was basically like, do something that puts you at the point of no return. Because so many people who have dreams of opening a business or doing something, like they're always like, oh, I'm perfecting my business plan, or I'm perfecting blank. And it's like, the business plan can always get better. Your financing can always get better. The timing can always get better. And if something can always get better, you're never going to do it. And so what we've done at Timber and here is we're just like, fuck it. Let's roll the ball out there,
Yeah.
and then we have to figure it out. So with Timber, we bought a mobile oven. We're like, shit, I guess we have to figure out how to make pizza. With Call Your Mother, we signed this lease here, and we're like, okay, we have 9 months to figure out how to make bagels and do this thing. So it has worked for us where we do something that puts us at a point of no return, which puts us in the survival mode, which makes us sort of claw our way to make it work.
Yeah.
So I guess that's sort of it. Fucking just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
That echoes a piece of advice from another guest I had, Mandela, who has a virtual accelerator founder gym, and that's her advice: just fucking launch.
Do
That's what
it.
she tells founders. You know.
Well, it's like I said, I've literally never looked at the business plan since we opened. And these people obsess and comb over the business plan, which is great. And like, you should think through your businesses.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, you have to make decisions in real time, in the moment, and you're going to pivot, and you're going to have to make sort of decisions on the fly. So get it to a reasonable place, get a reasonable amount of financing, do something, and just rock and
Sign a
roll.
lease.
Right. That's it. I mean, honestly, because like, you're either going to figure out how to make it work or you're not. Because you like perfected the business plan is not going to make or break you. It's like, do you have the juju to make it work?
The juju.
The juju.
Excellent.
Yeah.
You mentioned already, like, you know, you're going to pivot a couple times anyways. Are there any pivots that you've made with Call Your Mother?
I mean, the main pivots we've made so far is we've put everything on fucking pause because it's been so busy. Like, our business plan called for wholesale out of the gates and a supper club out of the gates and all this catering out of the gates. And if we actually tried to tackle that all right now with how busy we've been, all this stuff would slip through the cracks and we wouldn't be great at anything. So we've said, okay, let's put everything on pause and hopefully people understand, but we have to make this great right now. And if we were following the business plan to a T, we would have like sort of forced some of this stuff. We would have said, no, we have to do wholesale right now. It's in the business plan. We have to do it. And I think if we tried to launch that, the quality here would have struggled. The quality of wholesale wouldn't have been great. We would have burned our bakers to the ground and they would not sort of be able to do all that. So I think sometimes even pivoting where you're taking a step back saying, let's slow down, can be the right thing to do. Yeah.
Actually, I was observing that when I was here with a friend, and the space is big.
Yeah.
Like, it's obviously kind of like very open for customers, but like, at least, you know, like the height stuff. But like, we're not even in half of the space. It was like,
no, so the business plan here is this is supposed to be a factory. And eventually we will do wholesale, and eventually we will open satellite locations, and we will be able to provide the bagels here for those satellite locations. So this place is supposed to be sort of set up for the next 5 years.
Nice. Good.
And we want people to come in and see that it's a factory. And so, yeah, it was pretty strategic in that sense.
There's a bakery in San Francisco, and I do not remember the name. It's actually in Oakland. And you go in, and it's about the similar amount of space, but it's a full production bakery. And they have, like, a little, like, half glass partition.
Yeah.
So I sounds kind of similar. Like, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And you can also get some things here.
For sure. And it's cool, right? Like, you come in, you see the bagels being baked, and it's like an experience. And we're actually not on any delivery services yet. But in this day and age where you can get anything delivered to your house, right?
Yeah.
It's like people come out for an experience and they want it to like feel cool and be designed well and all that stuff. So you got to check sort of all those boxes.
Totally. I'm curious about one of the menu items, the za'atar bagel, which is My favorite bagel. Also, I love za'atar in general as a seasoning and as a spice.
Dope.
How did you get to that?
I think pretty much as you said it. We love za'atar.
Yeah.
And we basically really got into za'atar from the timber unit at the farmer's market. So we have a mobile oven for timber that goes to different farmer's markets and sells pizza.
Is it the original mobile oven?
We've upgraded.
Okay.
And at these farmers markets, there's a local company called Z&Z Za'atar, and they make the best za'atar.
Yeah.
And so we put it on a salad at Timber. We put it on a pizza once, and then we were thinking about interesting bagel flavors. I think the model in everything we do is we like to do creative stuff that's not gimmicky.
Yeah.
So we didn't ever want to do like a rainbow bagel or anything corny like that. We were like, what's something interesting that we can do that's not being done?
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, we fucking love za'atar. Let's try that. And that's pretty much how we got there.
No, I love it.
And it turned out well.
I know this is the second restaurant. With Call Your Mother, is there something or things that have come up or challenges that have come up, and how have you navigated them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been busier than we ever thought it would be, which is an amazing problem to have, but still comes issues, right? Like, this place was designed to make a lot of bagels. It was not designed to like push out a lot of breakfast sandwiches. It's a very small sort of hot line. And we truly thought this was going to be like a sleepy neighborhood bagel joint, and then we were going to do wholesale and catering to make it work. So we've had to figure that out, and that's been a challenge. And there's been these crazy lines, and people are mad that the line's not moving faster. Why don't you have a second register? And we're like, yeah, we could get a second register, and then there's going to be 45-minute waits for food. So that's been an issue. It's also starting from scratch again, right? Like, it's training a whole new kitchen staff. You have to train a prep staff, a kitchen line, front of house. And this is bigger than Timber, and there's more moving parts. At Timber, we make pizza. So there's one thing you have to train on. There's one piece of cooking equipment. So it's just like a whole new ball game. All new things to learn.
Yeah.
All new people to train. More systems to put in place.
Yeah, definitely not a sleepy neighborhood spot. I've run into,
No,
when I've come
it's
here,
not.
like, I've run into people that I haven't seen in ages.
Yeah.
Literally 3 times. And they don't live in DC.
Yeah.
Like, I asked, I was like, oh, are you living in DC now? They're like, no, we're in Annapolis. We just came down here to come here.
It's been
Or like,
bananas.
oh, no, we live in Alexandria, but we wanted to come up here to come to Call Your Mother.
Yeah. No, I truly thought weekdays it was going to be a ghost town up here, and then we'd like have one staff working, and we'd be making bagels for wholesale and catering. And like pretty quickly on the fly, we're like, oh shit, hire more people. This is not how it's going to go, which is obviously an amazing problem to have.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a lot to figure out for sure. And like on the weekends, there's a line out the door for 6 hours straight. Like, how do you manage that?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Neither do we.
Yeah, I mean,
Just hanging on for dear life.
I mean, like, maybe an Apple store on iPhone launch day, you can talk to like some of those people.
Right.
Which is also kind of interesting, by the way, having a line all day every weekend.
It's been madness.
It's like being on launch every weekend.
Yeah, every weekend before the doors open, we're all like taking a deep breath and being like here we go.
So is there pump up music? Like, what's the routine like getting ready in the morning?
Oh yeah, my favorite artist is The Dream. He
The
sings sensual, sexy R&B. So we blast that. Have a little pump up talk, have a bunch of coffee, eat a bagel, and say, let's go.
You shared a really interesting story, and it really stuck out in the interview with Daniel Pink and Rose, where you got was it a review or a comment about like the pizza was soggy on the bottom or something?
Yeah.
And then
Tom Sietsema, yeah.
Yeah. Pseudo important.
Yeah.
In the food space in DC and in the country, and you made us change.
We did. No, I mean we read all the stuff and we take the feedback and try and get better every single day, 100%. Yeah. As I said there in the review, Tom Sietsema said he had soggy pizzas. And so now we literally lift up every pizza and look at the bottom and feel the bottom and make sure it's firm, which is insane. And then there's when we're busy and there's a wait, and there's times when the pizza's soggy at the bottom and we have to recall it. But it's important to put the right thing out there. There was
awesome.
a day, it was our second week here. The bagels weren't coming out right. We found out later that the yeast we were using was sort of dead. We gave every bagel away for free that day. Damn. If you had a bagel sandwich, anything, free. And it was just the right thing to do. And like we could have charged, we could have discounted it, and we could have said, oh, sorry, but like we were straight up telling people we do not like how these bagels are today. It's on the house. Please don't judge us on this. Enjoy your meal.
Okay, when did you realize the bagels weren't the way that you needed them to be in the day?
It was like 8:15.
8:15. So you'd like just opened.
We just opened.
Yeah.
And we were like, what the fuck what's wrong with these?
And then, what day of operation was this? Like, what
This
was
was
it,
probably
first
like
week, first 2
day
weeks?
7.
Day 7.
It was like the
first
second
week
week,
or something.
yeah.
Okay, second week. Either way, what were people's reactions?
We actually got a lot of really positive reviews on Yelp that day where they were like, we still thought the bagel was good. If this is what they're giving away for free because they're not happy with it, like, I can't wait to come back. This is like what great customer service is. And it's those sort of hard moments where it's like, we're going to lose thousands of dollars today, but we're thinking about the long term, right? And I think a lot of people would say, I don't want to lose X amount of dollars today. We'll just like sort of use it, right? And there's a lot of times you go to the restaurant, you're like, this is weird today, but you sort of shrug. And I just think like everything we do, we sort of think about big picture, long term. How do we create like lifelong fans and customers? And so it was a horrible day. The amount of fights Danny and I had, and the anxiety and the stress when we were figuring out what to do. And now in hindsight, sort of a month and a half later, it was just like, it was the obvious right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we made that decision. But there's no playbook for that, right? There's no like, hey, when the bagels come out 25% shittier than they normally are, what do you do? It's just like these decisions you have to make on the fly. And that's something that you have to really worry about when you think about scaling. Would the manager of restaurant 3 do that?
Yeah, so that gets into culture, right?
Right. Yeah.
What kind of culture are you creating?
Exactly.
What's the,
Yeah.
how are you getting that consistency?
Yeah, and we try and empower all of our staff to like, if there's any sort of issue, you have the power to fix it, right? Like you all have the power to say yes and to fix everything and give them fucking cookies and babka and give them a gift card. And like, we want people to leave happy, period. Like you come out to eat and dine to like bring some joy to your day. And like, if somebody's not 100% satisfied, like we want to make you 100% satisfied, period.
No, I love that. And I think that you can tell when businesses take that seriously. And actually, I worked at Apple for 7 years in retail, and for a long time, in the early, like when I was there, 2007, 8, 9, they empowered like frontline employees to do a lot. And obviously it's one of the biggest companies in the world.
Yeah.
But even at that level, I was always impressed. In the beginning when I worked there, we had a lot of authority.
Yeah.
And it was like the goal is that people walk away, regardless of how they came in,
Yeah.
feeling that they were taken care of.
Yeah.
And that they have had the best experience possible.
Yeah.
Even if they come in like with a shit situation.
And a lot of companies don't get that.
Yeah.
And like, it's an insane example, but I was renting a U-Haul, and the lady at the desk was trying to find like every reason not to rent me the U-Haul, right? She was like, and finally she turned to her manager and asked a question. The manager was like, give people trucks. And like,
Give people trucks.
and that was it, right? And it's like, that's what you're there to do. But obviously that U-Haul didn't have the culture where these people felt empowered to sort of like make the customer happy. And like, they didn't get what their goal was, right? Like their goal is to rent customers trucks. It's U-Haul. And like, our goal here is to like serve good bagels and make people happy. And like, I think we try and hammer that home. But I don't know if that's like, as obvious as that sounds, I don't know if places do that, right? And like, it's hard to run a restaurant and every day is sort of fast and hectic. And I think a lot of times places are just in survival mode, not sort of like thrive mode. So as sort of intrinsic as that sounds and obvious as that sounds, like I don't think a lot of places do that, which is weird.
Well, I think that's the work that I do, working with, individuals around culture and with teams around team culture and how they work together, a lot of times that feels like sort of a tertiary, secondary, it's not the primary focus. It's not bringing revenue in the door.
For sure.
But to your point around consistency and like creating a great product, creating a great experience, like it is a huge part of that. Yeah. And it creates that stability. Like when shit hits the fan. Yeah. Does your team have the resources? Do they have the sort of the way? Do they have the ability to communicate? Does your team, any team, do they have the ability to provide that service, especially when things are tough? Yeah. Like sure. On day 7, when all the bagels are subpar according to you all, not necessarily your customers.
Yeah. No, and I think I do think it's easy for companies to sort of forget what their core business and values are And like I've seen it with us, right? Like as we get bigger and we're making more money and you hire more people to do more stuff and there's like more people on computers doing blah, blah, blah and all this stuff. And then like there was one day I took a step back and I was like, if you're in this building and I don't care if you're a manager, the number one thing we're worried about is like greeting customers and like making sure the food's dope. Put your freaking laptops away. You can do that later. Stop like doing whatever the hell you're doing in the back. Like our core business is serving dope food in a nice way. And I think it's easy as you get bigger to sort of like lose track of like what you're doing. At the end of the day, we need people to like us enough to come in and give us money for us to give them a pizza or a bagel. And that's it.
And say nice things online.
Yeah.
And tell their friends.
That's it.
Yeah. I love that. What's something you learned recently that blew your mind? Tell me about anything.
Anything. Yeah. Something I learned recently that blew my mind. Jesus, that's a good question. That you can train a dog with Cheerios.
You can train a dog with Cheerios?
I have a new puppy who's a total psycho, and I was spending top dollar on dog treats and buzzers and all this stuff. And I found out that Cheerios are like cracked dogs.
That's great.
It has nothing to do with anything. But if you have a dog, don't waste your money on expensive treats. Go get a box of Cheerios. You can thank me later.
You have 2 restaurants. You are operating in some places on social. What's the best way for people to find Call Your Mother, to interact, to find out what's going on here, Timber, all that good stuff?
Instagram, for sure. I still personally run both Instagrams.
All right.
So any feedback, if you just want to shoot the shit, holler at me in the DMs. I got you. And most up-to-date information definitely happens there. Twitter's obsolete.
Twitter's obsolete.
That's also something that I learned that blew my mind.
Boom.
Let them know.
It is noisy AF, and there is nothing good there. It is just a dark,
Exactly.
desolate landscape.
Exactly.
Andrew, thanks for being on the show. It's been great having you.
Pleasure's all mine. See you for a bagel soon.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Founder's Mind. Check back this week to catch a tangent episode with Andrew, where we dive into the process and why he believes many businesses fail. To make sure you don't miss any awesome wisdom from guests and stay up to date on the most recent episodes of the show, be sure to visit thefoundersmind.com. You can also follow along on social at The Founder's Mind. Last but not least, a thank you to Roy Matz for the music on the show and his dope editing skills that make The Founder's Mind possible. Until next time, take care.
In the world, going through all of this insanity and try to bring new ideas, make them a reality. Illuminate in the thoughts, make it a priority to implement what you learn. What you get is what you be. In a world full of noise, hard to find that clarity to try to lead subtly, never full of vanity, and try to change something small or try to change humanity. Power forward through the dark. Founder's mind is what you see. Founder's mind is what you see. Founder's mind is what you see.